Support for 100 Watts and a Wire is brought to you by 100wattsandawire.com. To subscribe to the show, simply click the RSS feed or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. When you visit, apply for your free 100 Watts ID and learn how you can become a sustaining member. Click the donate page and pick the option that works best for you. We've got a traveling toolkit, 100 Watts and a Wire gear, and activity days with prizes. That's 100wattsandawire.com. And ICOM. Get out and get active with ICOM's new IC705 and its optional multifunction backpack. And LDG. LDG automatic tuners are built with industrial quality components for safety, durability, and long life. LDG microprocessors run state-of-the-art matching firmware to find a match in seconds. For more information, visit ldgelectronics.com.
And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Oh man, let's have a little technical difficulty to start things off with. That's okay. We're friends, too many things, and it's like classic life meets amateur radio. My daughter bursts through the room right as we're live. We're totally live, but the cameras are dead. And she says, Mommy needs coffee. And back, in the pantry is where some extra coffee. I said, I didn't know what to say. Yeah. So anyway, welcome. How's everybody doing today? It's Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. And welcome to 100 Watts and Wire. It's good to have you here. Appreciate you all being here. And I got a little story for you. Got to tell you about it. You ready? Check this out. Breaking news. Christian is in quarantine. I am quarantined. It's okay. Don't freak out. It's one of these third-hand sort of exposures. My daughter's teacher's mother. You got that? So my daughter's teacher was visiting with her mother, as you do. And turns out her mom tested positive. So we find this out. She teaches my child. The next night, they find out. Teacher test comes back negative. And I tell my work, look, this is what happened. And they were like, please leave the premises right away. Leave now. Contact your doctor. So we did that. Contact the primary doctor. All this business. They put me on, not because of my doctor, but because of my work. Put me on a quarantine. So I'm out on the bench, not scoring points. Still getting paid, which is good. But until the 9th, I'm out. I went, took a test. And it came back negative. So all good. Twice this month. You'll remember from an earlier episode, got a little procedure done called the colonoscopy. Go back a couple episodes. You'll find out all about that. It's great advice for digestive health. But in order to do that, I needed a COVID test. Zoom, up the nose. Not the colonoscopy, the test. That would be a whole different kind of procedure, wouldn't it? And then for this thing, I had to go back, same spot, and get myself tested again. But anyway, first time on a quarantine. I doubt it'll be the last. I mean, we're going to be living with this for a while. So I'm not worried, and everything is fine. But I felt that I needed to share that with you because that is life. And if you've had it, and I've had some friends, heard about a new friend yesterday who's had these symptoms of COVID twice, tested negative. It's just, the science and the medical of it it's so new. And I'm like, wait a minute, you had the symptoms, but didn't test, test didn't come out. So that's what's going on around here. And I want to share some more stories with you. But before we get to that, we got to bring our boy in. Our boy is here. Look at that. There he is. How you doing, Steve?
Morning. Morning, everybody, or afternoon, evening, wherever you're watching this. And There's a cup of Joe for everybody.
Hello. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. We'll stop in and see who's with us. Steve, did I tell you about my quarantine? I don't know if I even got to that.
Yeah. We texted a little bit, and then I was telling you that my son ran into the same thing. So he works at a Safeway as a courtesy clerk, and same thing happened to him. He wasn't directly exposed, but one of the coworkers came down with the symptoms. And because of privacy issues, he never knew if they were tested positive or not. But basically, work told him, you're staying home for a while. And he was just getting ready to start his first quarter at the college. He graduated last year from high school, and so he had to miss the first week of school. Got a hold of his advisors and instructors, and they said, yeah, no problem. We'll get you made up over. It's just a 1 week. And so he has, most of his classes are virtual, but he had, he had to go in person for labs and things like that. So it worked out pretty good. Same thing. He got paid, and he stayed in his apartment. He refused to come out, and he took it to the nth degree on the quarantine. So I
understand. I understand. I wear the mask at work. I wear it in public. This exposure, it was more protocol for my job to go through this. And I was like, man, this is it's okay. I totally get it. But it was like, do I have to pay a $50 copay to talk to the doctor about something? It was so far away. And he even said, this is kind of and I was like, it's just protocol. I'm going to need some documentation to go back to work. So I'm glad. But I figured I'd share that with everybody. And the health is good. My baby girl is fine. And I've learned a little bit more about the virus and how things incubate and how it's transmitted. And
we're learning more and more about this
all the time,
virus
right?
Every day. It's
natural, I guess. Hello to John from the UK. He's Golf 7 Romeo Whiskey Foxtrot. Also, hello to the No Code Tech. He says hello.
Nice.
And let's see, we can say hello to Marty. Marty is Kilo Mike 6, Papa Romeo Alpha. Hello.
Good morning, Mike. Or Marty, sorry. Good morning, everybody. I need some more coffee to kick in.
Not sure what's in Steve's cup, but he says it's coffee. Kilo 5, Yankee
not
Victory.
enough.
Yankee. Hello to you. Let's see. The newish tech is the No Code Tech. He's looking forward to this. And happy Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Oh, yeah. Today's Halloween. Woohoo. Yeah, baby. End of the month. On top of it, we turn our clocks back tonight. So we got to, except in Arizona, where they just kind of, I think Hawaii doesn't change their times.
I think at some point we're all going to.
Yeah.
We need to stop this. Just stop this. It was a good intentions a long time ago when they were saying farmers need this, but I don't really think that they care much about the farmers. So let's just go ahead and farmers are up before the sun and after the sun. So stop messing with the time. Tango Oscar Mike, hello to you. November 3 Whiskey Sierra and his new call sign. And then we've got another greetings from Europe. Edwin is there.
Good morning, Edwin. Good afternoon.
Hello to you. He is Papa Delta 0 Sierra Oscar Tango. Hello. And Jason says happy Halloween. And we're catching up. Here's our friend Paul. Been there.
Hi, Paul.
Done all of that. I imagine he's talking about the COVID, and we're trying to catch up here on the chat a little bit. Jeff, Kilo Golf 7 Foxtrot Oscar Foxtrot. Hello to you.
Oh, representing Washington. Hey, good morning, Jeff.
We also have Ed Durant. He's in Germany. DD5LP. Good morning to our soda friend in Germany.
Windows. Damn Windows problems.
You were having problems with Windows this morning.
Yeah, just it's like it went kind of stupid on me.
Yeah, it happens. Kirk says, hello from Wisconsin. Whiskey 9 Kilo Oscar Alpha. Hello and welcome to the Ham Radio Show, our live stream on Saturday mornings. Here's Kyle. He's a local friend of mine, AA0Z. Turning the clocks back. Another great hour of 2020. Little facetiousness there, Kyle, but you're absolutely right. This year
You're so right. It's everybody wants this year to be done.
Just turn it forward about 6 weeks or so. Yeah,
almost.
I will be there too. I kind of feel like this is the start of holiday season for us here, but we don't get trick-or-treaters. And this year we've got the two girls, 10 and 6. They will probably dress up. We've got a bucket, like a trough full of candy for them, because it's, the goal is, as we talk about life and amateur radio, it's about trying to keep life as normal as you can, especially for the kids.
Yeah.
They don't understand these sort of restrictions and no playgrounds and why can't we, so you're just trying to keep it normal. Victor Echo 5 United Oscar, good morning. That must be a Canadian call sign. That sounds good. Edwin says, thanks, guys. Have a great show. He must be out on his way. He's out somewhere. I clicked the wrong button here. Good morning from Central Georgia. Scott, Kilo 3, Juliet Sierra Whiskey. I love doing all this.
Morning, Scott.
It's so nice that the community of people get together here. Here's John, Golf 7 Romeo Whiskey Foxtrot. Oh, he's got some Linux. Linux has fewer problems, he said. I guess he's got stock in that one. I don't know how this works.
We're kind of Apple guys here.
Yeah, I'm an Apple guy myself. I do work. This computer right here is a PC. But some of the brains of this thing that we're doing here is coming off of my Mac, which is here, if I was looking at it. Don Kilo Bravo 2 Yankee Sierra India. Good morning from Central New York. Here's Rex our farmer. Good morning, guys. Soybeans again today.
Oh, back in the beans again there, Rex. Good deal.
Thanks for what you do out there, because that is a rough and hard gig. All right, I want to share something. I'm kind of laughing at myself because I'm trying to figure out how to share with you images of the work I've been doing while I'm in quarantine. Now, my boss, if you are watching this, I've been hard at work, grinding it out every minute of every hour, working hard to advance the mission. But when I'm not,
on your breaks, on your your 2 15-minute breaks per day,
15-minute breaks and the 30-minute lunch that I clock out for religiously because I must get back. 160. I've been doing work with 160, and I'm doing all this work, and I always do. If you've been following this show on audio and you're following it on audio as you have for the last 5 years, you know that I have this love affair with 160 and those long legs. Good God Almighty! I mean, if antennas were a woman, 160 would be my type. You know what I'm saying? Those long. I better stop here. They're going to send me away for treatment again. It's a problem. Anyway, you know what happened is what happens for me, and I'll show you exactly why. And although I'll have to show it to you in a way I'm not really pleased aesthetically to show it to you, but our listeners at home, you can always go back and watch this if you want to see the imagery that we're sharing with you. Go to the YouTube channel, just search 100 Watts and Wire, subscribe, click the bell, all of that sort of stuff. But so for you, I'm going to describe it anyway. For the viewers here today, they're going to see a wacky way of showing you a picture, and I'll figure this out a little bit later. But anyway, what happens here is I'm in the woods, and deadwood falls this time of year, and almost any time of year, but you start to see the deadwood a little more when the leaves come down, and they tend to drop down right across the wire. And here's why. I'm gonna show you. Here's a picture, Steve, and it's going to be. We'll just call this a weird Halloween. And look, the weird hand is over here waving at you. Look out. Look out. Look, it's coming. Oh, no. All right. Don't worry about. Oh, no, another one. This is the haunted woods. Okay, this is a picture here. Just pardon the way I'm doing this here. And I'll explain to you if you're listening in audio as you're plowing snow or traveling. So we've got I don't know if you'd call it a forest, but we're back out in the woods here. And what you're seeing, there's no filters here. There's no filters on this image. It is where I've got 80 and 160 hanging. This is how I'm doing business out here in the trees. So if you've been listening to it, the beauty of being able to show you this is you can see what I'm talking about. Deadwood up here falls across the legs of 160 quite frequently. And what's happened now is that if you look at the tree directly on the right side of the screen, the bigger one, go up, follow it up, and then you'll see a branch that's coming off. It's a big limb. It's not a branch, it's a big limb, and it shoots up toward the middle of the frame. That's where 80 and 160 are. And what happened was I've had some trees come down in the area. So it's opened up an opportunity for me to move the 160, which was a little lower on that limb. Actually, 80 meters was higher on that limb. And now I was able to put 160 up. I'm going to cut to a picture now where you can actually see that limb from sort of underneath. This is me just shooting up at it, and it's not great, but you can kind of see what we're talking about here. And we're about 60 feet up in the air. I went out and crudely measured it with one of those laser things yesterday, laying on the ground. And it's not, it's harder to see depending on what time of the day, but roughly probably just a tick under 60 feet in this position. And I like how the rope goes under and around that split there at the top of that branch, if you can see it. So anyway, I spent my COVID quarantine breaks and lunch hour messing around with this antenna, working really, really hard. Thank you for indulging me on that as we're talking about moving the 160. So it was a little further down on that limb. And I'm like, you know what? It's clear. And at the time I'm thinking these legs, for a half wave antenna, that's a lot of wire up there. Beautiful though. And I had it in a position where it wasn't north to south. It was actually, sort of, I don't know, southwest, northeast, and it's fine. It's still a dipole, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's an inverted V, which in theory gives you an omnidirectional pattern. Although I've switched things around. I'll go north to south, east to west with an inverted V, and I can tell there is a slight difference.
There's a slight difference. Right. You got a little bit more off the sides. That's But
so ideally, but anyway, this was originally in a position that was pretty good. It was in the clear. There were branches above it, of course, because the line's coming down, in a V shape. And so there's things above it always. Some things came down and the tree came down, and I went out there and I was staring at the tree. I don't know if you guys do this, but I was staring at the tree. Like, what are my possibles here? And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, look. And I'm looking behind me. I'm like in the front. I'm like, with a little bit of work, I could move this antenna about 10 feet, maybe 10 feet higher than it was. And I was like, let's do it. And the weather is broken here and it's colder. And so I'm pleased to say that I was able to move it, and it's in the clear, sort of, as much as this makes anything clear. It's beautiful back there. I enjoy spending my time back there, but the time I spend back there in the woods, this isn't super far from my house, but this is, it's down the way a little bit. Steve and I were talking about coax last week, and I've got quite a run here to get to this spot and up. So it's 60 feet of coax straight up in the air, plus the run of maybe another 100 feet out to the switcher. Then you're coming back another to the shack. But that's what I've been working on during my damn COVID quarantine. But it's a time to do it, right? Mm-hmm. It's a time to get out there and do it. Now, if some of you would just get on 160 so I'd have someone to talk to, but you're making plans for that, Steve. You've got some plans.
Oh, yeah. So
it's on your list.
Well, this is my project for the day, or this weekend.
Oh, man.
And so I don't have all these trees are down the hill from me in neighbor's property. So out here in this part of the property, this is my tree right here. So this is a 85-foot man lift. My tower's 80 feet, and right back there, it's so what I have here for ones that are listening is I have an 80-foot tower, and then a two-person genie lift that's a four-wheel drive, big monster lift, and capable of 85 feet. So today, when we're done, the beam that's in the background on the sawhorses is going to eventually end up on the tower. So this is my weekend project, and then replacing feed lines, and then I'll put up another cross arm, and then work on building a new 160 double bazooka, and we'll get that hung, and we'll
so
see
sexy.
So yeah, that's pretty much the going to be the weekend project. And then when I'm done with that, I got another tower to stack while I have it out. Just a four. We'll just use the. We'll just move the lift over there by the shop and stack the 40-footer. And then I'll move it over to the house. I got some branches that are overhanging the garage, and it's like, you know what? That might be a good time. I don't have to throw a ladder. That's the best part. I don't have to climb a ladder. I'll just use the lift to get up there. And it's like, well, Steve, you climb towers. Why are you bringing a genie lift? Because I climb towers.
Yeah, he knows.
Let's do it the easy way. I mean, we don't need to beat ourselves up. So
here's a question for Ed. We're going to take a break. Oh, sorry, Steve. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
I've got Nature's Tower. Somebody said if they live in a rural area, they'd be all over one. It's all I can do right now. For now, is to play in the trees. Luckily, I've got some big old oak trees, and a couple of them back there are really big. I mean, they're back. These are not as old as you would think. I don't know if Steve can answer this question for me, because this is another kind of coax thing. We're going to do coax questions a little bit later, but when does extra height balance out the loss and the extra length of feeder? So I kind of understand what he's saying. I just know that my 160 is not at optimal height. I want to get it up as high as I possibly can, because I'll never get it to the point, so I'm playing with the same amount of coax and it's just a little bit higher than it was. I didn't add any coax to it, but I know what he's saying.
Yeah, you're gonna have more issues with length of coax versus the height and the benefits at VHF and above, where you're going to have higher losses in feed line versus getting the antenna up higher to extend your line of sight. And that's the bigger issue when it comes to height versus coax length. But here on the HF world, 160 through 10 meters, it's pretty much a non-issue. Then you're going to get into the, height is going to be a bigger factor for your if you really want to get into the weeds, your takeoff angle. And and that's another factor with frequency. And quarter wavelength, half wavelength, one full wavelength. For here on HF, length and height, they don't correlate. VHF, UHF, there's a big correlation on height and coax length.
All right. So good. Thanks for that question there. And if you do have questions, we'll try to mix them in here. Got some things we want to talk about today, and we'll go back to coax a little bit later in the show, because we're going to talk about connectors this week. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, Steve's going to break in to exploring more connectors. So hang with us just a minute.
More contacts, less alpha hotels. This is 100 watts and a wire.
The ICOM 705 is your perfect QRP companion, as you have base station features and functionality at the tip of your fingers. But it's in a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo, or just over 2 pounds, with RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. It's got that large 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall. And the perfect accessory for the IC705 is the optional backpack. It's the LC192. It has a special compartment for the IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or just a day in the park. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all ICOM radios.
Made in America, shared worldwide. This is 100 watts and a wire.
Alrighty, friends, welcome back here. We're having a lot of fun teaching in this sort of new format. Steve and I have always talked about doing videos for YouTube, and then I started one up and I thought, man, it's just another mouth to feed. Then just, it's harder because the focus was on the audio of the podcast, which still has a great audience and still growing, which is amazing. The more of these shows we put out, the more people gravitate toward. This is just turning on the cameras on the show. So what we're saying, in other words, is this show becomes the audio show. So it's one and the same, and it feels better. It's easier to produce. It's not labor intensive. But one thing we have here is that we can actually teach you and show you a couple things, which is really cool. And I think we really started off with coax last week, and there's some questions, and I'll sift through them as Steve gets going. But another essential part of your coax and your system, and these things aren't cheap all the time. It's all relative, right? Depends on what you're getting and how much you're changing them, and are you doing it right. But connectors on your coax can really change an activation. It could really ruin your day. It can make you, and I'm speaking from experience, it could send you out into the snow, laying down on your back in your pajamas, flannel ones, the ones that sop up the wetness and make you freeze to death. Can get nutty over a connector. And we can get into down the line a little bit talking about how to troubleshoot a connector, because I mean, if he could isolate my text messages alone, it's a book. We should put out a book, Steve. It's like Q&A over every ham radio related topic. It's probably a good idea. We're going to do that. But it's like checking the connectors, how to do the connectors. Where do you start with the connector? And so instead of going case by case, I think we'll just look at some of the connectors and let Steve go ahead and take it from here. I will monitor chat for questions, and I'll pull Steve up here and get you going. Go ahead, Steve.
So we're just going to go cover just some basic connectors that the common ones that we use. And so this is just a PL259 or the UHF connector that and pretty much all our equipment has that. And then we have some BNC connectors and end connectors. Oops, so we got cables going everywhere. So this is a BNC connector right here, and that's you might find them on QRP rigs and on the back of some of your HF rigs. And then we have the variable end connector, which is a little more specialized. You're going to see that more so in the UHF, VHF world, but for the most part, we're dealing with. I just got some PL259 connectors here. So, and these are the males, and then for the female side, they typically called the SO239. This just happens to be an antenna switch, and but what I want to kind of address there's different styles of connectors. So let's see if we can do this right. So you can see kind of that brown. Sorry for the popping in the mic. You can see that brown phenolic insulator, and this is kind of this was a very popular connector for many, many years, and but it doesn't really do well. It doesn't have good insulating properties at higher frequencies. But so this connector has a Teflon insulator in the center, and these happen to be a better connector. Now let me look at these two bodies here of these connectors. So this is a silver connector. It's actually silver plated, and it's really hard to tell, but the body is tarnished, and that's one way to tell that it's a silver connector. And then if you look, as I peel the barrel back, you can see how it's shinier on the inside, where it's right up in here, where the silver hasn't been exposed to the elements. And so these are the connectors you want, because they solder very well. If you're going to do a solder connection, the solder adheres to the silver much better. And then when you're making your solder connections, this one, look at this shiny little guy. Well, this is nickel plated, and it just happens to be one with the phenolic. And these are the guys that are cheap. These are you'll find at Hamfest or some electronics store or whatever, Radio Shack when they were in business. These connectors were available, they were everywhere, and they look all nice and shiny, and they're great. Woo! woo, we get all, and this is an old connector. This has been around for years and years and years. And the reason I know is let's see if we can get in here. You can see how the lead here when it was soldered is pretty dull. I don't even think it's a decent connection. I would consider it as a cold solder joint. Here's another nickel plated one with the just a different color phenolic insulator. So these are solder connectors. A couple of these have RG58 cable, and this one has 8X. And so we got solder type connectors, and then here's the Amphenol, the big guy. This is a silver plated solder. Let's pull off the barrel. Solder connector, pretty much the standard when it comes to UHF connectors. This is the guy, but you do pay. Oh gosh, you do pay a premium for it. They're not cheap, but these are truly silver plated, and that's where I kind of go for is a silver plated connector. Yes, you're paying a little bit more as far as connector goes, but you get what you pay for. And so last week we talked about the investment into your coax and getting a decent run of feed line. Now we got to take it one more step, and the next step is getting decent connectors. So there's basically three styles of connectors. You have solder connectors, which is like this Amphenol. Then we have crimp connectors, which is this guy here. So he's just strictly a crimp, and then there's a ferrule that goes over, and everything is crimped, including the center pin right here. You're actually crimping right on the tip of the center pin of a PL259. It's great. It's really easy to do. The problem is, if you don't do them on a regular basis, you have to buy this guy. And this is a crimp tool. And typically a high quality crimp tool, this particular crimp tool is made by Amphenol. And the body's around $100 just for the crimping handle. But then you have your dies, which are also another $60 to $70 depending on the die that you put in, and then you have to have multiple dies. I have multiple handles, so this is all set up for RG 58, 142, 59, and then this particular tool is set up for 213 RG8. 58, 59, 142 on the other one, and 213 on the second tool. So,
and that's so smart to have two tools with different dies, because changing the dies, it's not that it's a hard situation, but it does take a little bit of time, and you're like, where did my dies go? If you're me, or where's the tool to change the die? That's a smart tip.
And it's just another added, cost. Now, if you're doing it a lot, then great. So then you have the crimp, all crimp, and they have their benefits, then they have their drawbacks. And then the last is which I really like, is this particular connector. It's crimp. The shield is crimped, but the center conductor is soldered. And what I like about this is if you're going to have a dipole in the air, like you have, Christian, you're going to have all that weight that's going to be hanging down. And I like having the center pin soldered, because now it's going to hold up the cable. I ran into that problem. We talked about it when I used a crimp connector. Didn't think about it. I just crimped it, stuck it up. A couple years later, that center pin, the wire from the center pin just kind of worked its way back and created an open, and it was in the middle of winter. So there I am out there in the snow with my table and repairing an antenna system. It bit me in the butt. And I, at the time when I did it, was like, just because we just do it all the time. We crimp things up and boom. And then I was like, duh. So so there's those styles, and as far as connectors, but invest in a decent, connectors and for your cables. Now, if you're only making up a couple of them, and you don't have the time, time is, our time is very limited in this hobby and in life. You can go to say DX Engineering or ABR, and let me switch screens here, and you can go over here to so we're here on ABR's website, and you can we'll just click here and you can build a cable. So we'll just kind of run through it when this pops up. Okay, so here we have the cable builder. We can we'll just pick a cable here. So let's go from here, and we'll just make it 213, and then we'll make it 50 feet as far as cable goes. And then this is the cool part. Now you can select what kind of connector you have on each end, and this is whatever. There's BNC female bulkheads, reverse polarity. We go down to end connectors, SMAs, and then but let's go down to the UHF male. So we'll pick as a one connector, and there it is, UHF male, and then the second cable. We'll just do the same thing, or you can make it if you just need let's go with UHF female just for giggles here. And now you can have an extension cable. And then here you go. You add it to the cart. It's about $78 for that run. It's a professionally made cable, but it's quality cable, and it's all done. Like I said, these tools add up. Now, if you're doing a lot of them, great. It's awesome. If you're only doing one or two, maybe this might be the way to go. Think about it. It's ideally everybody should be making up your own cables and learning how to do that. But some of us don't have the time. We don't feel comfortable with doing it. And a bag of 24 of these DX Engineering cables is like $74 for it. So they're, the connectors are not cheap. And if you don't do it right and you just have one little strand from the shield shorting out your connector, then it's like, geez, I ruined another connector, and there goes, $4 or $5 for a connector. So there's
there.
Yep. We've all been there, done it a bunch of times. So it's, comes down to what's your time worth, what is, how comfortable you feel about making up connectors. And there's options. We have lots of options out there to make up, to do, our hobby here. So, but I highly recommend looking for connectors that are silver plated, have a Teflon insulation, and the nickel plated ones are, nice and shiny, and you even see those gold ones. And at the Hamfest, it's like, ooh, gold. But I've never tried it. I don't know how well they solder up, and but I mean, they look pretty. So, we're investing into our hobby here. Yeah, some people, they might kind of doubt on the investment, but we're spending a fair amount of money into our radios and cable and a decent antenna system. We want a lot of enjoyment, and if we do it right at the first time, then we'll get many years of service, and that's what it's all about. Unless you want to go out there and constantly be working and fixing antenna systems or trying to change out cable connectors, and I'd rather be sitting in the chair here and operating versus chugging through the middle of the snow and trying to fix something when I don't have to. I already do enough of that at work. I don't need to do it here at home.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Steve. We're gonna wrap up side A to this vinyl record. I just like to talk in terms of vinyl and records and music. It's a thing. But side one, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to flip the record over here. So we'll have two shows this week on the audio side. We're not going anywhere here actually on YouTube and Facebook. So go ahead and continue to put your comments or questions about connectors down. We have a couple of questions we want to get to about coax from last week. And we'll take a break, 30 seconds. We'll come back and we'll work on those and your questions next. This is 100 Watts and a Wire.
To join the 100 Watts and a Wire community, visit 100wattsandawire.com.